Hello there fellow modelers, and welcome to this rapid video build of Eduard's 1/48 scale A6M3 Type 22. Now this build is a very good build. It does go together very well, and it's got absolutely sublime surface detail and an absolutely amazing looking cockpit. If you get the Property Pack edition, where you get all that lovely photo etch, we're also going to be looking into a lot of chipping as well with this build. It's a nice aircraft to really show off those kind of techniques. So let's get jumping into the build and let's get started with the photo etch. Now when it getting off the fret, there are tools by, I do believe, RP Production, or even like tiles, where we just want to sandwich the fret together and use a number 9 flat blade to rock, not saw off those bits of photo etch off the fret. Now Tamiya does a really nice file here, where if you sandwich with some tweezers the photo etch, again to stop any bends, and we can just sand that away. Now gluing down, there's lots of ways of gluing, but microcrystal clear is a good one. We can just place our photo etch on top, and just some cotton wool bud where we can get any oozed out bits of that glue that comes out, and we can safely as well put it on for the second layer. We don't have to worry about the dials because it does dry to a nice crystal clear, but we will still get out a cotton wool bud after placing it, and you know, just get up any sort of bits of ooze, up bits of here and there, and there you go, you can have a really nice instrument display panel. Now as for bends, now sometimes you do have to put like a curve into these bends. A pencil, paintbrush, something like that's good. I mean, there are proper bending tools and all this kind of stuff, but tweezers do also do the job rather well. And we can glue that with a bit of super glue, and as you can see, tiny little pieces with a some tweezers is good for that job. Now super glue, I do like to use super glue for those little pieces, especially like tiny ones, which you'll see in a bit, where I like to dip the piece into the super glue, and then you've got to be quick. This is the only thing, you've got to be quick in placing it, because it can dry in an awkward position. So speed is of the essence, but you can have some really cool looking three-dimensional bits of photo etch going on there to really jazz up your cockpit. When it comes to bending things like seat belts, I like to put nice big creases in it, and then just sort of lightly kind of you know, flatten that out a bit, and again dipping into the super glue, and I get one point glued first. Once that's glued into place, we can then manipulate it to a custom shape on our seat itself. Bit of super glue kind of pasted underneath the rest of that seat belt, and then press down and hold until glued into place. And as you can see, there is our seat belts all nicely looking natural. So we're going to now apply a filter, which is MIGS 1508, a nice green, just to change the hue here, not to bring out the detail, but to kind of change the hue of everything. Now the US modern vehicle wash, which is 1007 by MIG, I use this to kind of like pin wash all those raised areas, the detailed areas. But what I'm also going to do is use NATO camouflage wash, which is 1008, and apply that in the same way, but to the lower areas of the cockpit. This is just to kind of show more shadowy and darker areas in the lower regions of the cockpit. Now a clean dry brush we can use to begin to feather that in after it's dried. You might not be able to get rid of all the flat spots, but like it does feather it in nicely and kind of cleans it up pretty sort of quick. But for those stubborn areas, you might want to come in with like a cotton wool bud. Even you might want to come in with, say, a paintbrush, where we dip it into some enamel odorless thinners, and we put it, and we sort of dip onto a kitchen paper towel. This is just to make the paintbrush moist and damp, so we don't flood the area, and we can just tidy up those tiny little discrepancies and mistakes, and those areas that haven't quite feathered in, and just kind of neaten it all up. Those were the colours I used, by the way, for the cockpit, which I'm now going to use Winsor & Newton's matte UV varnish just to varnish everything matte, and then we're going to come in with the glass coat Gauzy agent just to give our dials that glass finish. So we've got those textures nicely sorted and blending it all in. So that's good. That makes it look way cooler. And as you can see, the cockpit is now all finished. Now when gluing in this cockpit, it's a little bit different. We're going to glue the fuselage halves together, and then we're going to put the cockpit in. When kind of gluing the fuselage, you know, we kind of use pegs to hold it in place, and then we glue, because Tamiya extra thin cement has this great capillary reaction to suck between those glue lines and glue it that way. Just makes it a way more neater way of doing it. So we're now going to add the cockpit with this, which the kit is really good in the sense that this really just almost clicks in. No issues, you know, we just need to glue this in. So maybe a bit of a blob of Tamiya extra thin cement, and let that capillary reaction, the gravity, drag it down so we don't have to try and get our paintbrush in there. And the same with the top. You'll notice that I am kind of applying it on top of glue as well. As long as you just touch it, you'll be fine. So I'm just going to peg in our wing section here. There's a little kind of pointy bit, just make sure that's in the right alignment, and then I'll just glue parts of this and apply a peg, and then I'll glue the other part and apply a peg. A little bit different to the fuselage, it just helps you be a bit more hands-free. And so we have the fuel tank here, which has a glue line within this recessed circle. So bringing out the RP tools, this is a punch and die set, right? We're going to find out what diameter circle we need first, which I find out it's a 1.9. And what you want to do is get some of the thinnest piece of plastic card you can, like paper thin, and we place our 1.9 in the 1.9 hole and hammer that away, and we'll get a perfect circle of plastic card, really nice and thin. And then we can place that in, and even use the die set to push that in and make sure it's down, and glue away with that, right? And that is going to nicely remove that that joint, that glue line that's in there. The best way to do it, really. These tools, these are kind of good. You kind of scrape away the plastic to kind of get that seamless finish on your glue lines. I do like them for those 90-degree angles where sanding sticks might not quite be able to get properly, but I do still like to give a bit of a sanding away when using those kind of tools. Now we've got some gaps still going on, so this is where we get out the green putty, and we want to just paste that in and just make sure it goes right into that gap, right? We don't want it to just be on the surface and we sand away and we've still got a gap. We do have some raised some raised panel lines here. The best way to do this, really, not the best, but kind of like the easiest way, is we get a blade and we just kind of press down and then rotate the piece. And what this does, it does create a recess, but the plastic raises up as well, so you get this kind of raised panel line. You can use things like decals to do that, but that's a bit tricky in itself as well. Same with riveting. You press down, yes, you do get a recess, but as long as you don't sand away, it does raise the plastic up to be raised as well. Now this is kind of strange. I have built one of these before and I hadn't had this problem. I might have glued something slightly wrong or something, but it just didn't quite press down. So I'm basically trying to find what the problem is. I'm just hacking a bit away and then I'll test fit, hack something else away and then test fit. You know, just kind of remember, it's easier to remove a little bit than it is to try and actually add something. So a little bit here and there. I did find the problem. The wheel wells were somehow too raised, or maybe the wing section was squashed down a bit too much, but we grinded that away. The wing, there was a gap between the fuselage and the wing section, so I'm just using some Tamiya masking tape here now just to create pressure to close that gap where I'm adding the glue just now. Right, so we're going to get out some black. Any black will do, but we've got Vallejo model there. And I'm just going to spray all our actual join lines now. This is just so as we can identify any gaps like that. So you could just see a little bit better with the paint down where the gaps are. And if you want to really see, yes, do a little bit of a light sanding, so you just sand the paintwork and you can see those gaps a bit more. So Mr. Surface is going to be your one for this. We can just paint this with a paintbrush onto those gaps and close them up and just sand away at them as normal once that's dry. Now, plastic putty technique, this is good for, you know, when you've got those join line gaps like so. We can just inject directly and then wipe away with a cotton wool bud. And hopefully, as you could see, that closes that up nicely. So sadly, that is it for part 1 of building this Zero by Eduard in 1/48 scale. Do hope you'll look forward to part 2, the final part, where we finish this beauty. But please do go to the Genesis Models website and check us out over there for way more video content and help support us here at Genesis Models. So as always, until next time, my name is Bobby Waldron. This is Genesis Models, and I'll see you later.